evening, everyone. Welcome to another Just a Five Strikes Tonight. My name is Sydney. However you're watching tonight, thank you so much for joining me on Thursday, March the 10th, 2022. And the MLS season is in full swing across North America. And a big day for Atlanta United on Sunday, as for the first time, they take on a new derby partner, new rivals, new southeastern rival in Charlotte FC. Charlotte FC, of course, the newest team in MLS, beginning their expansion season this year. They are currently 0-0, 0 wins to 2 losses in their first 2 matches. And seems like a bit of the consensus is that there'll be a lot of growing pains for Charlotte FC, at least in their first season. And even their head coach, of course, infamously has said as much. And it's like that for a lot of teams. The athletic, kind of a scathing, so to speak, review of things in the Charlotte front office thus far. I know CLTFC fans weren't too happy to read that, but in fairness, I didn't read the whole article. I saw bits and pieces of it on Twitter, saw some things on social media about it. And like I said, Charlotte fans weren't too thrilled about it, but it seems like the truth, really, the team aren't really, or hasn't been built in the fashion that will get them successful, so to speak. So we'll see what happens. Certainly a great debut for them crowd-wise this past weekend at Bank of America Stadium. 75,000 plus fans, I believe, in Bank of America Stadium, the largest crowd to ever watch a MLS match. Pretty incredible to watch, even as someone who supports Atlanta United, who covers Atlanta United. Incredible to watch, incredible to hear, really the national anthem with the mic cut out at the beginning of the match. Unfortunately for Charlotte FC, they lost 1-0 to the LA Galaxy. They are in Atlanta, though, to take on Atlanta United Sunday afternoon, 4:30 p.m. at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I know maybe a few of you were there in Charlotte to watch Charlotte FC's first ever home match in club history. So who was definitely there in Charlotte, it has been in the United States over the past few days, is Chris Smith, a good friend of Dirty South Soccer. Actually used to write for Dirty South Soccer. He now writes for 90 Men, and he is in the United States for a few days, kind of doing a tour of the Southeast, and he is in Atlanta. He'll be at the Atlanta United versus Charlotte FC match on Sunday. Chris, how are you today?
Yeah, good evening. I'm great, thank you, and a pleasure to be here, finally.
Great to have you. Great to have you. Before we go any further, just kind of tell me what your journey is. I mean, you're from the UK, but tell me what your journey is, how you came across MLS soccer, how you came to appreciate MLS soccer, and sort of what brought you here today.
Yeah, I appreciate that it's not really a conventional route, a British guy getting into MLS. It's usually an American guy getting into the Premier League. But yeah, I used to write for Squawker, and one day they asked me to write a playoff preview, and I put loads of work into it and a lot of research, and got it all together over the course of a few days rather than a few hours, and made sure I got it right and give the league the respect it deserves with the piece of content I was putting out. And in the end, I put that much into it that I ended up just deciding to stay up and watch all the games. Fell in love with how Atlanta United played under Tata Martino, as I'm sure many people watching this did do as well.
Yeah.
And from there, it just I was going to say very slowly, but to be honest, it very quickly grew on me, and started taking more of an interest across the league, and that naturally takes you into an interest in in the US national team, the Canadian national team, and all that kind of thing. And before I knew it, I didn't really have time for the Premier League anymore, and eventually took my role last year with 90 Men, getting to cover the league full time after writing for Dirty South, World Football Index, One Goal US, a few other sites. Now I'm full time with 90 Men, sat here in Atlanta for the first time, and that is indeed the Benz right behind me there. So
quite the view, the view. We were talking before the show, but it's kind of a reverse for American fans of the Premier League, because the Americans are having to get up super early to watch Premier League matches. You're staying up super late watching MLS matches. I kind of feel sorry for you because of those West Coast matches. They start 3 a.m. your time. So
yeah, that's it. I mean, games like this Sunday, it's the kind of game where it'd be a dream for me back home. I think it's a 4:30 kickoff, and that's like 9:30 in the evening for me. It's a great time on a Sunday for our games to kick off. But yeah, those West Coast games are grueling. They're starting at 3 and 4 a.m. and if you're back up for work again in a few hours, it can really take it out of you. But it's all fun and games. I knew what I was signing up for, so there you go.
Yeah, I think it's a struggle for some American fans too. But no, seeing one of the CONCACAF Champions League matches kicks off at 11:15 Eastern time, which is, I guess, 9:15 p.m. Mexico. So that's one of the. I'm not sure how fans are going to stay up for that, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah. The chat is open. I want to say the chat is open for folks watching YouTube, Facebook, also on Twitter. If you have any questions for Chris or myself, feel free to drop those in. In fact, we have a comment right now from Anthony. Anthony, thanks for watching. He says, be sure to grab some chicken and waffles while you're in Atlanta. I will tell you this. There used to be a place, I'm sure you're familiar with Gladys Knight, the singer and entertainer, but there's a Gladys Knight's Chicken and Waffles here in Atlanta that's been closed down for a few years due to some legal issues involving her son, unfortunately. So I would tell you to go there for some chicken and waffles, but I believe there are places like JR Crickets and Anthony, if you have another example, or anyone else in the chat, if you have any recommendations for Chris, where to eat, anything like that, what to check out while he's in town, definitely drop those in the chat. Thumbs Up Diner. There you go, Chris.
Yep. Put them all in the chat. I need to start building a list out. So.
Yeah, but let's talk about Charlotte FC. You, of course, were at the match at Bank of America Stadium in Uptown Charlotte last weekend. 73, almost 75,000 people packing out American football stadium to watch a soccer team. Something that, I mean, it's not the first time this happened, but as I said earlier, the largest crowd to watch an MLS match in history, eclipsing, of course, Atlanta United. Give me your overall impressions of what you saw and what you heard from the fans that are in attendance for the match.
Yeah, to be quite honest, I know I probably annoyed quite a few Atlanta United fans with my constant Charlotte posting, but honestly, I was showing love for a club that really welcomed me with open arms to what it turned out to be an incredible event. Back home in England, I've never experienced anything on that scale before. It was just so much bigger than anything I've seen in this sport. It felt like 74,000 when you was down pitch side. It was very loud. And what really surprised me during the game was sort of, you go to a new city in MLS and you can be quite worried that maybe 74,000 people have turned up, but only maybe 15,000 of them actually know the game and know what's going on. Mm-hmm. But everyone stayed, everyone sort of clapped at the right moments, everyone shouted at the right things, and it felt like everyone had really invested into that night and really kicking off the club in style. And the tailgates outside were heaving with people. The march to the stadium, there's a video I put on social media where they stopped under a bridge and there's flares going off, and it was just, obviously you do see it in MLS. I've never seen anything like that before, and it was absolutely incredible. A once in a lifetime experience that I'll never forget. And let's just hope that Atlanta United can match it this weekend for me with my first time in the city.
Yeah. So one of the kind of viral moments that came out of that match is, of course, the national anthem. Charlotte FC brought in, I believe it was a contestant from The Voice here in the United States to perform the anthem. And her mic cut out toward the beginning portion of the song. And it's amazing to hear 74,000, 75,000 fans singing the national anthem in the tent in unison. Just kind of out of curiosity, do they sing the national anthem at domestic matches in the UK? I'm just
no, they don't. It's a largely American thing. I believe they do sing it. I think they sing it at the FA Cup final.
Okay.
I may be mistaken. Someone can correct me there in the chat if they know better than I do. But yeah, I mean, even it wasn't even my anthem, and I got chills. Like, I had chills. Like, I felt sorry for the singer, obviously, because that was a huge moment. You could see she was, when the camera panned to her, she was still belting it out and really going for it. And I'm sure she was doing an incredible job. But in a horrible sense, it was kind of the best thing that could happen because the crowd really brought it. And I nearly started singing. I think the Queen wouldn't be welcoming me home if she would sing me on Saturday. I think I'll be getting done for treason. So
I don't know how much MLS she watches, though.
No, I think I might have been safe. I think she was probably watching other things.
No, but we had a similar thing happen here in the U.S. with Atlanta United. I don't know if you've seen it, but we had an anthem singer. I want to say, was it 2017, Atlanta United's first year? It might have been later than that. I may be getting my dates mixed up. And if you're in the chat, please correct me. But it was a gentleman that was performing the anthem. His mic cut out, and it was just an amazing scene to hear, thousands of fans singing the anthem behind them. I don't think it was quite at the scale as it was for Charlotte FC. And again, as I said earlier, just really a viral moment, and really a moment that is an early iconic moment for Charlotte FC. Thank you, Angel, on Facebook. She says 2017, but yeah, really iconic moment for Charlotte FC right out the gate.
Yeah, that's it. Again, I feel bad for the singer, but it really was the best thing that could have happened because the crowd just worked doubly hard. And it was one of those moments where I was really busy on the ground during the game with like an Instagram takeover. Sure. But that was one of those moments where I could just stand back and just appreciate what was happening around me. And yeah, I had chills, and it's not even my anthem. Honestly, it was an incredible moment and something that the fans inside the stadium, they were buzzing around the city for days afterwards. And that's a moment they're never going to forget either.
Yeah, that was awesome. Really was awesome to watch. And something that all the fans there will definitely be able to take with them, for really the rest of their lives.
Just in response to the hat comment, by the way, I have got my hat on here.
There we go. There you go. Liz is obviously following you on Twitter at CJ Smith 91, correct?
That's the one.
Yes. So yeah, if you're out there, give Chris a follow, CJ Smith 91 on Twitter. Let's talk about the match itself. Charlotte, of course, lost that match 1-0 to LA Galaxy, and I kind of set it up earlier toward the open. There's been a lot of talk about Charlotte's roster makeup, the manager's impressions of this roster. And I mentioned the Athletic article that came out a few days back that those Charlotte fans weren't too happy with. But at the end of the day, I mean, when you look at the result 1-0, from what you saw, I wasn't able to watch the match myself, but from what you saw, what is kind of your initial impressions of Charlotte FC? Of course, one of the keystone signings for them is Christian Fuchs. But what was your overall impression of the team, what you saw, and what you experienced from Charlotte FC in just their second match in MLS history?
Yeah, I think a lot's been made of what Miguel Angel Ramirez has said in his press conferences. To be honest, I think too much has been made of it. Having spoken to him on the ground now and really got a feel for the guy and a feel for the players and everything that's going on around the club, it's not as, I'm sure that the reporting done on certain articles has been thorough, as always, but I don't think it's quite as disastrous as maybe it reads the first time you look over some of the comments and some of the situations. In terms of their roster build, we know there's big, massive gaps on the wings, but I do feel for them in that Darwin Machis and Kamil Jozwiak were two DPs that they basically had signed and sealed. One of them fell through for a legal issue that was out of their control, and another one, from what I know, Wayne Rooney promised that he wouldn't play him in his last game at Derby, did, and he picked up a long-term injury. So
go figure.
Yeah. So I mean, they're finally getting that one back over the line now. So that should really help. But in terms of the style of play, I mean, whoever watched them away at DC will know that scoreline really flattered DC United. A couple of lucky goals, a poor refereeing decision, and obviously Charlotte hit the net first and unfortunately had it called back for offside. But they had a few chances to score. They played really well. And I think against the Galaxy, they weren't quite as incisive and they weren't quite as strong going forward, but they were still mostly organised at the back, and there are clear patterns of play there in the way that they move the ball, and they're brave with it. They're not just lumping it long. They are happy to play through the pitch. So there are good signs. It's just one of those things where you're an expansion team, you've had a little bit of bad luck, and yeah, sure, some people on the ground are still learning about MLS and learning about the sport full stop. So it's not going to be right from the start. But yeah, I think as soon as they score that first goal and get those first points on the board as well, I think you'll see a little bit more of a positive team. I don't think it's as drastically desperate as some people are making out.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I feel like they're going to be coming in on Sunday. Granted, they're just their third match in club history, but I feel like Charlotte will be coming in on Sunday a bit with nothing to lose, right? You know, they're kind of the upstart. Atlanta were in their shoes 5 years ago, but now here comes Charlotte. They make its own mark in the MLS landscape, similar to Atlanta United, owned by an American football owner in David Tepper, who has got a little blowback for his questionable decisions for the Carolina Panthers. We'll see what happens with Charlotte FC. It's kind of similar to Atlanta United too. Arthur Blank has gotten some blowback among Falcons fans, but yeah, like I said, Charlotte FC. I feel like, especially with this being a derby, I feel like this is a club that are going to come in, like I said, feel like they have nothing to lose. I mean, their expansion side, you know, they've had a lot of negative press thrown their way, and they're going to be really out to prove something, especially against an Atlanta team that, I mean, granted, they've been missing some parts over the past couple of games, or first couple of games, and maybe not just a couple, but a lot of parts over the past couple of games. But with Atlanta, and we'll talk about Atlanta a little later coming up, but with Atlanta getting some players back, hopefully, safe Miles Robinson will be sending this one out. They still can't really take Charlotte for granted, I think. They can't just go in and say, hey, this is expansion side. We can just kind of sleepwalk through this 90 minutes. We know Charlotte is going to have a heavy away support coming down I-85 to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. We know that. We know they'll be behind their club all 90 minutes. So Atlanta would be foolish to really just not take this match seriously.
Yeah, I mean, again, the feeling on the ground in Charlotte at the moment is like this game is huge. It's a chance for them to I mean, they made a big statement on Saturday just with the attendance, but if they could come down here and get a result, that's going to be huge for them. They're really, really pumped for it. Same goes to the players as well. Even someone like Karol Swiderski didn't get a goal on his debut on Saturday, and as a striker, you're always going to be hungry to get off the mark as quickly as possible. And I mean, where else would you want to do that than in the home of your closest rival? So sure. Yeah, they're definitely going to be pumped for it. But equally, there's absolutely no way that Atlanta United won't be up for it either. You know, they've got a new upstart rival, a new local rival coming to their house, and they've got to show them who's boss in the South, basically, because Atlanta United came in and showed everyone how to do it over the first few years. So. And now, obviously, Charlotte FC are trying to do something similar. I think Atlanta United will want to remind them who's boss, and the players will be up for it. We know the fans will be well up for it, and I'm super excited to really soak in that atmosphere. And I think it's going to be another day to remember. And I don't think either team are going to be letting the guard down anytime soon.
Yeah, and one player that Atlanta United fans will be paying close attention to is Anton Walkes. Anton Walkes hasn't played yet for Charlotte FC this season, dealing with the hamstring. Haven't seen anything about his status for Sunday. I assume it's a minor injury because he set out against DC. Honestly, hopefully he does show for Charlotte FC so he can get the applause he deserves from Atlanta United fans, because Anton was a big part of this club during his first couple of years, and a lot of fans were disappointed to see him go, to see him unprotected in the expansion draft.
Yeah, I had the chance to say a quick hello to him in the ground when he was just before all the madness started, and I interviewed him about 2 months ago, around when that move happened, and yeah, it was clearly disappointed with how that was handled, as you would be. He saw his future in Atlanta. He was very happy at the club, and he become a leader last year in some difficult moments. So I think that disappointment was reflected in the supporters as well. I think the fans loved him. He really fit in really well. Equally, he did say that, it's that kind of sport where you can't lay down roots too much because anything can happen, especially with the transfer mechanics in MLS as well. You're never quite safe, really, unless you're a DP or maybe a goalkeeper. So he said to me, even like as soon as the Charlotte opportunity came around, he knew he had to take it. It was somewhere that wasn't a million miles away from where he already was. The club made it clear that they wanted to build around him and make him an important piece of their first team. So it was a great opportunity for him to go down there. And even if he's not playing, I'd like to think that he'd come down to Atlanta this weekend and see the fans, because I know he's very beloved by them and never really got a chance to say goodbye. So, yeah.
Oh, he is. And hopefully we do get to see him in some form or fashion on Sunday at the Benz, as you were saying. Let's talk about Miguel Ramirez just a bit. He's a young manager, I believe 37 years old. What's kind of his tactical approach that you saw from Charlotte FC this past weekend?
He's a young manager, but he's a young manager with big ideas. So he plays like a positional style of play, and it very much involves, which is surprising for an expansion team, because it very much involves all the players being in tune with each other and sort of knowing where they're all going to be on the field and making sure the spacing's right, both with and without the ball. So you can make those quick interchanges and all the sort of the movements off the ball make sense over the little 1-2 passing and things like that. So the style of play he's looking to play is quite complex and quite ambitious, which I would put to his credit rather than anything else, because if that's the style that he wants to put on Charlotte FC from the start, then you may as well, MLS is a league where you can take a risk. So you may as well do it from game one and get your players going. And if they can get the DPs in for the second half of the season, then they can make a real push at the table. They're good in possession. They're very brave in possession. And what I did notice as well against the Galaxy is Miguel was very quick to get them organised when they lost the ball. So he was making that gesture straight away to make sure everyone came in nice and compact. And they're going to pose some questions to Atlanta United in that sense, because we've seen Atlanta United a few times in the last couple of years really struggle to break down a team that will just sit in and frustrate. We'll hope long term that Thiago Almada will make a difference there. Hopefully Marcelino Moreno can really turn it on in that respect. And there are worries about Joseph Martinez's movement at the moment. Doesn't seem like what it was. So that's gonna be a tough thing for Atlanta United to come up against if Charlotte get it right. Is when they lose a ball, they are very quick to get organised. And I just want to shout out quickly to Miguel's personality as well. We were lucky enough to spend a fair amount of time with him for the project that we're doing down there, and he's an incredible guy. Really warm, really welcoming, really friendly, and it's very easy for a manager or a player, if they've got a busy schedule, just to speak to us journalists quickly and then run off as quick as they can. But he really made time for us and made us feel welcome. So, his comments in the press have been blown up, but he's a great guy and someone who Charlotte FC fans are lucky to have.
Yeah, you like to think he'll get a little time to make his mark on the club, because it's not like Europe. MLS isn't like Europe where managers get sacked after 10, 15 matches. We like to think that he gets some time to make his mark and really imprint his ideas on the club, right?
Yeah, well, both from people inside the club and from supporters, they're all well aware that, okay, it happens sometimes, but given the challenges that Charlotte FC have faced with having the pandemic delay them by a year and a couple of transfers falling through, they're not going to come in and win MLS Cup in year one. Right. They're not going to come in and challenge at the top of the Eastern Conference in year one. That's clear, and that's fine. There's no relegation, so Miguel can spend a year getting to know his players, getting them to know each other, getting his style of play really imprinted, and build out the squad as he progresses through the year. And then that was the very clear message from the club: is let's see where we fall this year. Let's see what kind of team we put out, and let's gun for success in year two. And that seems to be the way that it's going. So he'll get time.
Yeah, so we mentioned Almada. Let's talk about Diego Almada. And the club tweeted out this evening, Friday, as we're coming on live, that he is in town. So we're assuming that all visa issues have been
Yeah.
squared away with him. Don't expect him to start on Sunday. Personally, he'll come on probably later on to get a little bit of a run out, depending on how the state of the game is. But it's a bit of a relief for Atlanta United because they're missing a ton of players. They'll of course be missing Miles Robinson, as we mentioned um, earlier, due to his 2 yellow cards against Colorado, their 3-0 loss. But it seems like, and Mike Conti from 92.9 The Game, which is the local radio station that covers Atlanta United here, is saying that, hey, Atlanta United could have back a few players this weekend. It's really not too soon because you don't want to get into a situation where you are kind of scrambling for points early on, leading to, of course, winning the first match, but then taking a heavy defeat to Colorado. And again, that's partially because of their roster just missing a lot of pieces. But with Amada coming back in the fold, or coming into the fold, with Moreno getting healthy, again, with some other pieces coming on board, maybe Atlanta United can finally start to gel. It's still early, but maybe they can start to gel and get their legs underneath them and really be able to play the way that Gonzalo Pineda wants them to play.
Yeah, I mean, full disclosure, I didn't get to see the Colorado game on Saturday because obviously I was down on the ground doing work at the Charlotte game. So, but as soon as I saw that they had to play George Campbell in the six, you know what kind of squad you're trying to deal with there. No disrespect to George Campbell, he's a fantastic player, but he's very much at his best at centre back. Missing Aruju, still not getting Almada back in. Moreno's still been getting back to fitness himself as well. There's all sorts of things that Pineda has had to juggle so far. So I'm not too worried by the result or by the defeat. And that seemed to be the overarching opinion of the fans as well, was very much, let's take it with a pinch of salt. It's game 2. It's a long way from home. A lot of players missing, but yeah, I should have hung around in the airport a little longer when I arrived this afternoon because I think Almada dropped about an hour and a half after I arrived, so he completely dwarfed my arrival in the city.
Yeah, he's waiting for you. He's waiting for you to get here.
Yeah. But no, I got a little tip off last night that his visa was sorted and he was on his way. And the same source did say to me that he'd be very surprised if he did play much, if at all, on Sunday. But I mean, he's in the city now. He's got a bit of time he's already met the players, which is a big bonus, and trained with them down in Mexico. So, if he's feeling up for it and Gonzalo wants to throw him in there, maybe we could get 15, 20 minutes out of him, which could be vital.
Yeah. And Gonzalo Pineda is set to meet the media on Friday at the training ground. I'm sure that'll be one of the questions that is asked. But certainly, like he said, as I said earlier, we really don't expect him to start on Sunday. But the good thing is he will train with the team on Friday, Saturday, and then see what happens with him on Sunday. But we mentioned Campbell certainly being that center back pairing with Ana Franco on Sunday, with Miles Robinson missing due to those yellow cards. Let's talk about, and we talked about earlier, Joseph Martinez, and we've been talking a lot about what his role will be. And I look at Joseph Martinez, it's easy to think of him as this young guy, but he'll be 30 in a couple of years. And he's coming off an ACL, and I don't think it's fair to expect that he'll be the guy, and I've said this before, I don't think it's fair to expect that he'll be the guy that really was scoring goals for fun when he first arrived to the league. And that's okay, I think. And we mentioned his movement maybe is a little bit more limited than it was before his injury. I think the big question is for Gonzalo Pineda is, how do you kind of reinvent Joseph Martinez? Do you? I mean, you don't want to lean on him as the primary goal scorer, but at the same time, maybe 15, 20 goals at this stage of his career, this being year 6, and again with him coming off a ACL a couple of years ago, maybe a 20-goal season, 15, 20 goals, but maybe with him getting more involved in the playmaking situation, maybe being looked at more as a assist man, someone that can make things happen and serve other players. I mean, he wants to score a lot of goals. He wants to be the prime striker on this club, but at the same time, I feel like the club need to really think about, what's the situation if he does go down again. You'd like to think that there are more players that can put the ball in the back of the net. Almado has been said to have a nose for goal. Maybe Araluju, maybe guys like that can take that mantle from Joseph and become that supplementary goal scorer, that secondary goal scorer. What do you feel like Joseph Martinez's role is as he begins this, or not begins this post ACL stage of his career, but as he's kind of still, in some respects, trying to become the player that he was before he got hurt?
Yeah, I think it's a real conundrum at the moment because, as you say, you try and reinvent Joseph Martinez and change the role he has in the team, and will he be good enough to play that role after years of just being such a predatory striker, or do you change your team to fit what Joseph Martinez is now, and maybe instead of trying to play balls in behind and attack that way, get to the end line and cut back, a little bit similar to how Pep Guardiola does at Man City, where he basically, all the chances are laid on a plate for the striker. All he has to do is be stood in the right position. I think changing your entire team around one player is always dangerous, even if it is Joseph Martinez. As you mentioned, it's a post-ACL Joseph Martinez, and as much as everyone who's ever come in contact with him has described him as a warrior and that kind of character, and he'll never admit defeat and he'll keep going for as long as he can. As much as that is the case, it is very clear that he is not the player that he once was, and he doesn't have that explosion that he used to have. So it's certainly a conundrum. I'm not writing him off from getting somewhere close to what he used to be just yet. We have got to remember that last season he got stronger as it went on. It seemed like he got his legs under him as it went on, and then the season unfortunately ended. So let's see how he sort of adjusts over 4 or 5 games, starts to get that fitness and a bit of a run of games under him, and maybe just a couple of goals. We know what he's like. Once he gets a sniff, that's it. You give him an inch, he'll take a mile. So yeah, it's a real conundrum for Gonzalo Pineda and for the club as a whole. What do they do with this iconic player? Because I don't think anyone wants to see him be sold or leave the club. And I mean, well, we've all heard what Joseph himself has been saying. He wants to die here. So so yeah, it's going to be a few tough decisions coming up. Ultimately, I have faith in Joseph to get it right, though.
Yeah, and the thing about Joseph Martinez is, I don't mean this in a negative connotation at all, but he's a very proud player. He's a very prideful player. He wants to be the option for Atlanta United from a goal scoring standpoint, and he'll stop at nothing to do it. Like you say, he's a warrior. He's a fighter. I mean, he said himself, "Look, I want to score 200 goals." I think, and you see how he reacts every time he doesn't score. I mean, he takes it personally. He's upset. He kicks ad boards. He, gets angry at teammates for not giving him service, which is natural for a striker. But he's a very proud player in that he knows what his role is. He knows his capabilities, and he expects nothing but the best from himself. And if he doesn't reach that, he shows it in the emotional standpoint. My biggest fear is, how does Pineda, I mean, you kind of talked about it yourself, how does Pineda handle that? We saw that Frank de Boer couldn't really handle that. He eventually capitulated to what the players' demands were as far as the playing style. But then we saw what happened with Heinze and the rift between Joseph Martinez and Gabriel Heinze, to the point where Heinze was sat and the club parted ways with them. What happens if, God forbid, you get that same rift between Martinez and Pineda? And not to say that will happen, but how does Pineda handle unhappy Joseph Martinez if it comes to that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, touched on it again, but Joseph's unashamedly Venezuelan, so he's going to be fiery. He's going to be really intense, and he's never going to quit. He's never going to accept defeat. That's fine. But on the flip side, I think he's smart enough to know what his limitations are, and I think as proud as he is, and as much as he just wants to keep being successful on the pitch for this club, I think he also respects the club enough to know that, if 2 years have gone by and he just still cannot get back to that 2019, 2018 level, then I think he's proud enough to know that and start figuring out what happens from there. Again, it's such a tough one to answer, because I never want to sit here and say, oh yeah, we should sell Joseph Martinez, because nobody wants to see that. I don't want to see that, and nobody else wants to see that. But ultimately, it's a team game. So, if another season goes by and maybe any struggles, then there is going to be a conversation to be had and some tough decisions to be made over whether he changes his role or changes his contract or changes his surroundings. But I don't want to jump ahead too far. Let's see if he gets on the board against Charlotte this weekend and goes from there.
Yeah. And again, I mean, he still has a few years ahead of him. He still has some time ahead of him. But at the same time, he's not the young Joseph that he was before. But let's hope for LA United's sake and Atlanta United fans' sake that he can sort of get back to the player that, or somewhat close to the player that he used to be. Because I was talking about Sam Jones a few weeks ago. We talked about the Golden Boot. Tati Castellanos won it with, 22 goals or something like that.
I think it was 19 last season.
19 goals last year. So, yes. I mean, it's not out of the question to.
No, it was in contention last year for the Golden Boot as well. That's the thing, and he had that great run sort of I think it was about 3 quarters into the season, and he just kept dropping goals and some great finishes as well. I mean, Anthony's just made a great point in the chat there that he got 2 assists in the first game, and he does have that in his game. As much as sometimes he can look isolated and go long periods without seeing the ball, when he gets it and he drops deep for it, he does use it well. His passing is good. He's composed. He's really strong at holding the ball up. So there are other qualities there that he's got, even if he's not scoring goals.
Yeah.
The big worry isn't actually about Joseph himself in a lot of ways. It's fine, okay, Joseph has this new role, but who's he servicing? Who's going to score? Because it's the age-old question of who's the guy who's going to get the goals behind him. And Dom Dwyer's made a good start, so maybe an unexpected, crazy MLS character arc helps Atlanta United out. But that's my other main concern is if fine, let's change Joseph's role, but then can Luis Araújo score enough goals? Will he be at the club long enough? Same goes for Thiago Almada, Marcelino. It's going to have to be a team effort.
Could you imagine a few years ago that Dom Dwyer would be scoring a goal for Atlanta United?
Not at all, but it was kind of a perfect moment when it happened. Really, I think once he's here, you've just got to get behind him. So it was a great moment. And I was sat in my living room at home in the UK, and I scared my dogs with an over-exuberant celebration. Put it that way.
Yeah, no, good on him. Good on him. I mean, he's been through a lot of physical and personal things in his life over the past few years. Good on him for being able to score that goal against Sporting Kansas City. Really good Sporting Kansas City team. I want to ask you kind of before we go, CONCACAF Champions League. How keen are you on that? And do you feel like, first of all, your impressions on that, and do you feel like this is the year that MLS finally get over the hump and take out Liga MX and finally win the competition? Because a lot of these teams, NYCFC, the Revs, maybe Seattle, they really look like teams that could break that curse for MLS.
Yeah, I mean, despite the late nights that I have to go through to watch the competition, some of my earliest memories of really starting to get into the Atlanta United fandom were CONCACAF Champions League games. So, I mean, I like the competition in that it's like MLS, it's wild and unpredictable. And it's something a little bit different because you see in MLS teams come up against maybe some, and I'll air quote it, lesser teams, and then also you get you get to gauge them against teams that don't have the salary restrictions that MLS do, and there's all sorts of different challenges that are posed to MLS, and ultimately, both with CONCACAF Champions League and now with Leagues Cup as well. If MLS really want to grow as the leagues say they do and become relevant, they have to start winning these competitions. They have to start dominating locally. As much as maybe some fans don't quite get as up for it as they would do an MLS match or a playoff match or anything like that, and I think they're massively important to gauge where the league's at. And this year is looking good. It looks like corners are finally starting to be turned. I think I know Colorado went out and they don't have any DPs, but overall, I think we got ourselves a strong group this year, especially with the three that won in the last couple of nights with Seattle and NYCFC and the Revs really putting out statement results, dominant performances for the most part as well. You get three teams into the semi-final, maybe even four if Montreal do well at home. Well, then you're guaranteed. But if you get three, as it currently stands, you'd be incredibly disappointed not to finally get over the line. It's been a long time coming, but let's get an MLS team to the Club World Cup.
Yeah, MLS or Montreal are kind of the outlier. They lost 1-0, of course, to Cruz Azul,
but away from home though.
Away from home, so Cruz Azul kind of feel hard done by because they really dominated the match. We only put the one goal past the Montreal keeper. So see what Montreal do. We'll see what Montreal do in that return leg as they look to get past Cruz Azul. U.S. Open Cup. Are you? Do you follow that at all? Because that makes us return in 2022, and of course, Atlanta United are still the defending U.S. Open Cup champions.
I love the Open Cup. Another one of my, not early memories, a little bit later, but another one of my really defining memories so far as an Atlanta United follower has been staying up when I was on holiday in Greece, right into the early hours to watch them win it against Minnesota United. So, it's a very fond memory I have of just sitting out on my own in the balcony with nice hot weather and a beer in hand and just sort of really, really experiencing what a bit of success feels like. I love the US Open Cup because I love the FA Cup in England as well. There's a romance about being able to come up against these smaller teams, and it's easy to forget that in that Open Cup run there were some close calls there as well. That was a while ago. I've slept since then, so don't call me out on the exact teams, but I do remember there was some really close calls against some of the USL teams. So I think it's important for your national structure to give access to those top clubs for your lower league teams. And I'm a sucker for a cup run.
Yeah, Bruno said in the chat on Facebook, 3 years in a row. Last time Open Cup was contested was 2019,
and we didn't get our Champions League spot from it this year.
No,
absolute travesty.
Unfortunate. Maybe Atlanta can get it back this year. Before I let you go, scoreline prediction for Sunday. I'm gonna go with maybe a 2-1 for Atlanta United. I think Charlotte are able to get on the board. I think Atlanta maybe score first. Charlotte equalize, but then they do get that winning goal at the end and hold out for the win. I'm gonna say maybe Joseph Martinez scores, and let's go with maybe Marcelino Moreno. Marcelino Moreno gets the second for Atlanta United in a 2-1 win against Charlotte. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'm going to make myself unpopular one way or the other, aren't I? So I'll go for a 3-1 Atlanta United win. Again, I think Charlotte will get on the score sheet. Swiderski looked dangerous in little moments against the Galaxy, and I think he could get on the score sheet. I'll go with a Moreno brace and a late Joseph goal to get him off the mark. A little similar to yours, but the other way around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we both are in agreement that Atlanta United will win. So I think think that's the most important part.
Yeah. L's,
Hey, Chris.
L's in the chat when that doesn't happen. It's a 1-0 win for Charlotte.
Yeah, of course. Of course. But hey, Chris, it was great to have you, man. Glad to hear you enjoy your time stateside. And I already mentioned we can follow you at CJ Smith91 on Twitter. Where else can we find you online?
Yeah, you can get me on Instagram as well at Chris_Smith_MLS. I have to think about that then. And yeah, just follow me on Twitter, reach out, say hi, and if you see me around in Atlanta this weekend, don't be afraid to come up to me. I'm looking for some company while I'm here. So,
alrighty, Chris Smith from 90 Men. Thanks a lot, Chris. Cheers.
Thank you. My pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks. Chris Smith from 90 Men. Glad to have him here on Five Stripes a Night, as he is making his way around the Southeast and experiencing soccer here in the South. And glad to hear again he is having a great time. Bruno saying Atlanta 1-0, a goal from George Campbell. Bold prediction from Bruno. But yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens on Sunday. Hey, that is it for Five Stripes tonight. Thank you for joining me. I know it's been a while, but I'm glad to have you all back. Glad to be back with you all. You can follow me at SHWrites on Twitter, SHWRITES. And of course, for the latest Atlanta news, analysis, and opinion, SturdySouthSoccer.com, SB Nation's home for all things Atlanta United. My name is Sidney Hunt. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll see you next time in Five Stripes tonight. So long, everyone.